Hi, I'm Ameera Khalid, and I'm the creator and host of the Powerful Podcast series, produced in collaboration with the Canadian Business Council Dubai. On this podcast, I will be interviewing a diverse group of Canadians and have thoughtful discussions that I hope will resonate with other Canadians in the region and across the globe. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. I hope you enjoy listening to the Powerful Podcast series. And if you do, please subscribe to the Canadian Business Council Dubai's channel on YouTube. You can follow the podcast on Canadian Business Council Dubai's social media and also reach out and connect with me on LinkedIn at Ameera Khalid. My guest today is Zel Ali, a humanitarian education advocate. She has been a proud Dubai resident for 2 decades and started her professional career with numerous brand building leadership roles representing global luxury brands in addition to founding and heading one of the region's most prestigious PR firm. As she grew professionally and evolved within this cosmopolitan city, Zel became incredibly inspired and guided by the country's growing commitment and dedication to humanitarian initiatives, leading her to finding her true purpose to serve by providing free education schools for underprivileged, poverty-stricken children in India, Africa, and to children and youth globally. Zel is a staunch believer in taking accountability personally and also believes that nothing is impossible if we open our hearts and become the agents of change that we look for in the world. Thank you so much for being on the show, Zel. It's a pleasure having you. Zel, from Canada to Dubai, tell us about your journey. What brings you here and how has your experience been so far?
Great question for all expats, especially one like me who's been in Dubai for over 2 decades. Simply put, a young, newlywed 20-year-old plus that just, we needed a new life and Dubai offered that for us. So I moved in for that reason from Canada. Just going back to my ethnicity, I'm of Afghani origin. My father was a diplomat, so I've traveled the world. I've lived in India and then Canada. Why I do say this is because Dubai was a perfect home that hosted us, because it has exactly what we believe in, our diversity, cultural, melting pot. So it was absolutely fabulous that we came here. The transition from Canada to Dubai 2 decades back was very easy because that's what Canada is. Canada is about diversity and cultural acceptance and celebrating, humanity. We felt at home right away. And this is where we made our home. This is where both my boys are born. This is where I started my professional career. And Dubai has one tagline for me. It's my roadmap of my passion for compassion. This is where I started it. So it means a lot to me.
Zel, from working full-time at a leading PR firm to philanthropy, what in your life inspired this transition?
Actually, it wasn't, I wouldn't say anything inspired me, but I would say that every life experience leads you to the next one. So had I not had one, it would not be the next one. I do come from the background of communication, and I started my career in advertising and PR, and then I was responsible, luckily, for brand building for some of the biggest multinational luxury brands. At that point a lot were coming into the UAE and Dubai or being launched. And I did enjoy that a lot, leading me to being a founder of my own PR agency regionally and extending to India. What changed, I would say, is during that particular time, a lot of brands, especially multinationals and luxury brands, had a lot of commitment in the CSR for goodwill initiations and endeavors globally. So the strategies came from other regions. I saw myself involved in it through being on the other side. So part of our PR strategy and direction was including that. And that brought me in the forefront of doing a lot of charity galas. I would be involved with celebrities. I would be involved in a world that was, slowly starting to bridge my expertise, my experience to something that I really enjoyed. And if we all remember, 2008 to 2010 is where there was a global recession. I would say one of the other times in life that changed our world in many ways. And in that time period, I saw the commitment to goodwill initiations more. I found myself more drawn to it. On a business level, it was a very difficult phase. I lost a lot of business at that particular time. And then I started getting opportunities within this field of work. So I was approached by the agency was going on. We had less accounts. I decided that I did not want financial stress. I wanted to be more fulfilled in what I do. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a finance person. So it wasn't really serving me at that time. And I started getting approached by brands trying to change their strategy, trying to be more responsible and trying to be sort of a leader, collaborating with NGOs and collaborating with nonprofit organizations. And these key organizations started contacting me to give me sort of a placement of being on their board. These are all voluntarily. I took it as a learning opportunity. I'm always about growth. I'm a forever student, Ameera. Like I want to learn, I want to learn. So this was one more opportunity for me to do that. And as I got more involved in it, I really saw it leading me to what I call, we all look for a purpose for there's no right or wrong. This really was my purpose. I started utilizing my expertise at best. I literally felt like, when you're out of college and the excitement is in you and you want to make it and you want to make it happen. I felt that buzz. I felt that excitement in me. And I started realizing that I wasn't actually doing it for the causes. I was doing it for how fulfilled I felt. I was doing it for the changes I was bringing on. I was also doing it into being a part of the progressive world, where the world was going, and I was embarking on that. Just like when the IT world became, that big new thing, I know the ones that were involved in it were excited. So this was what I got involved in. This led me into being part of on board of very, very good organizations in the UAE. And I was part of their committees and I started learning, got a very close link to India. My husband is originally from India and also I grew up there. My father was a diplomat. So I traveling back and forth in India, I got more exposure to it. One was exposure. And the other thing I realized that in the world of charity or in the world of humanitarian work, what was missing or lacking was there were individuals involved in philanthropy, which is funding directly. There were individuals involved, grassroots, which were the NGOs I was working with. There were people involved in corporate brands that were doing when I was on the other side, which was, of course, gaining from it, but they weren't there to make it better or to help them. So I started treating it like a corporation, like I started my agency, where I started thinking, well, how about I bridge all three together and try to be involved in it. I got involved with one school where I treated it like a corporation and turnkey solutions from the teachers to fundraising wasn't my own at that time. I was only participating to make a difference in it. I started getting involved into food programs, the lacks of it. I started seeing the needs of the children into medical areas and also got involved into other initiations like welfare of kids, so de-addiction centers, etc. This went on for about 5 years. And I really, Ameera, I would say 2 times in my life, I've found myself. First times is when I had my children, or had my first one. I realized that I didn't have a child. I became a socially responsible human being that day. And the second round was when I got involved with these kids and I started realizing that it's just beautifully fulfilling that I can bring this change in them. Education happened to be, I would say, accidental, but also I would say it was easy. To be involved in giving access to education is very easy versus being involved in, I would say, welfare or other, where the laws of the country are involved more. So it served me as well, and it was a great journey, and that's where I started. When I came back every time from these trips, a lot of people would tell me, you know what, how amazing is it that you do this stuff and you're coming back, you must feel so good. On the contrary, every time I came back, I used to have about 3 days where I used to feel quite low. I used to actually feel how much I really could do more, to be honest. But I always needed a balance in my life. I needed my responsibility of being my life here with my family and what I enjoyed. And I love having the life that I do and I celebrate it and I'm grateful for it. Yet I needed to put the balance where I wanted to give back and I wanted to be better at it. And then that's how it started. And I started ensuring that I utilized all my network, my reach, my expertise, my knowledge to grow these 4 or 5 projects that I was involved in at that time. And then we got hit by COVID. The kind of work that I do, it's actually been a fantastic journey. COVID has been, because I have received so much of understanding from the world, acceptance from the world. A lot of things have opened up after COVID in the world of wanting to help. But for me at that time, I felt a little defeated. I could not travel. My projects were in India. My needs were not being met. The fundraising stopped. I don't do any fundraising in the UAE for the reason of following the UAE regulations. My projects are not in the UAE. Being part of the other authorities in the UAE, I learned a lot about doing the right way of charity, about utilizing my expertise in the correct way. So I don't do anything in Dubai. I am a proud Dubai resident that does work for another country. But I couldn't travel. I couldn't do anything. And that was difficult, very difficult.
Zel, you have worked on many important projects advocating for underprivileged children's education. Which of your philanthropic initiatives are you most proud of?
There are a few, but one that is really close to my heart. I'm a believer of things happening for you and the universe making it happen. So when COVID hit, just before COVID hit, a project had come to my attention by a young MBA student in India who had the opportunity of being living in the slums, but he self-educated himself, got a scholarship to go to one of the best universities in India himself. But because he lived in a really poor area, he had students coming to him constantly for tutoring and they wanted to learn. And he approached me, found out from somebody, and he said, I had 5 kids and now I have 35. And I can't turn them down because I wasn't given those opportunities. Because when he met me, he was 25 and he was embarking on his MBA. So he was a late student, but he said, I just can't say no to them. And can you help me? Can you help me try to either put them in schools or possibly a way that we could help these kids? I was due to go back to India. It didn't happen. We got hit by COVID. He got stuck in Delhi where he lives and his university is in Bangalore. So he started tutoring them in open air because cluster classrooms we were as human beings allowed to be outside, not indoors. So he started having 4 or 5 kids. And when he sent me some photographs, I really had to pause and forget what I felt during COVID and what selfish zones we got into being in this fabulous city like Dubai where we didn't really feel COVID and my family was healthy and thriving and we had food. And he sent me a photograph of him with the kids sitting huge, imagine a football stadium where the concrete blocks of the flyovers are just placed, so 4 or 5 of them. And each concrete block was a classroom because it had a bit of a cover. And these kids would sit and he would teach them basic curriculum. And that's when I called him and I said, I don't know how I'm going to do it. And that's me, Ameera. I never think about how I'm going to get there. Once my intuition says I can do it, I find the ways. And I told him that we're going to do this and bring in as many kids. And why I'm sharing this specific one with you is that I may have a drive. I may want to do something. Those kids may be ready, but we need that little push and opportunity. And it was COVID. I spoke to a friend of mine in Dubai. I just called her and I said, I don't know if I can do this and I want to do it. She's not in the world of philanthropy, but she told me, Zel, go and do it. I'm with you. And I just needed that one person to tell me this. And I did. So we added the classrooms. We started basic education. I would say support, which was not much, but we didn't need much because at that point we were just few of kids. Today, Ameera, we are 550 kids. We actually are a full run. It's a full school actually, and it's still outdoors with just 3 classrooms that are in the shed. I haven't had the opportunity to be in India as frequently, and I'm going to be going more. And that's my project of the heart that I want to grow it into a real school. I have initiations and support coming in from globally actually that want to be a part of it. I have seen the dedication and commitment that, to be honest, I push my kids to go, and they do it, and they're great kids, and I'm proud of my boys. But this was something else. These kids are looking for a life, and they're seeing that opportunity. And I'm just so I'm in gratitude to be part of this change, and this is where we are.
Zel, you have worked on many important projects advocating for underprivileged children's education. Which of your philanthropic initiatives are you most proud of?
Okay, so I mean, this is actually a very this is one I've really learned from and learning from every day with UNHCR Solidarity Circle. It's just a beautiful concept that was created to bring together leaders in the business, philanthropists, individuals that have made their mark and making a difference in the world, and I would say have reach or a network that could contribute together to basically just to carry forward the basic mandate of UNHCR to serve refugees in the MENA region and globally. And I'm very lucky and honored to have been invited. When I became a part of that, my drive for education is very strong. Like the other members have their own individual passions, and at that particular time, there was UNHCR invested more time and energy into aiming higher. Aiming Higher is an initiative by UNHCR which provides sponsorship of education for refugee youth for higher education, tertiary education globally. This really caught my attention because my projects in India, these children, I would say, are they're actually in a better place. So they have families, they have a mom and dad, they have a country, they have a nationality, they have an identity, and their country will always serve them, come what may. They celebrate Eid, they celebrate Christmas, they have weddings, they're united. These children for me, I feel or youth for me, are looking for the basic human rights, safety, security, to be able to have an opportunity to live as a human being, to be able to feel love and care and respect and dignity. That to me is really important. And education can really, really open that route. And I think a lot of people underestimate the need of education for the underprivileged because we're so focused and rightfully so because we're not in a progressive mind individually. We think food and medicine, clothing, that's what we need. And the world is offering that a lot. But we're not thinking what will happen in 20 years or 30 years or 50 years. And education is needed. We learned that in COVID. So I'm committed to this. I'm committed to advocacy for it. I'm committed to fundraising for it with channels of the regulatories that we can do. I am committed to having anyone and everybody involved in this to not support Zel, to support a cause that is going to change. It's going to have a ripple effect. You have one youth becoming a doctor, possibly going to another host country, possibly having a family and his children go to school. And you're not just changing a life, you're changing lives. Just to give perspective about education with the refugees, only 3% globally of refugee kids are having access to higher education. And the aim is not much. It's to literally reach 15% of them in the next, I would say 5 to 10 years. And that's already a challenge. That is how behind they are. And it's a very, very simple access to education that everybody can contribute. My son who's in high school can contribute. I can, a philanthropist can. The world has to need to open up to know they need it. That's it.
Zel, do you have an idea of how many children you have helped through your work? Are you having the impact you hoped for at the outset?
In my heart and mind, I say not enough, Ameera. I can just give you, in terms of kids that I am educating, would be about 700 plus. And when I say educating, is I commit to, it has to be right from elementary to high school. So you got to carry them through unless life changes for them or they need to move. That's my commitment. I've also been a part of now when these kids graduate, what happens to them? You got to understand their families and parents are not educators or they're not professionals. They don't know what to do with them. So I do get involved in assisting them to going to college. In India, it's actually not very difficult because they do have seat reservations for the underprivileged. I just have to access and help them get through a process. So I've been a part of, I would say not more than in the last 3 years, 40 to 50 youth that are doing that. And it makes me really proud to see where they are today. Education extends to welfare of children. I cannot turn a blind eye to that when there are people I'm dealing with every day. I have a network or a reach that I've grown with doctors, with pro bono surgeries, and their needs that have been met as well. So I would say about 20 or so. And I'm very happy to tell you that this number I like to keep low, that they don't need it, and they don't have to go through the route. But when it's needed, I've done that. And this is just the projects in India with UNHCR and aiming higher. Every endeavor, every event, every strategy is about getting more and more and more kids. Those numbers are not even, they can be 5 or 500 or 5,000. They're never enough. So that we're pursuing every day.
Zel, do you think domestic and international philanthropy should be doing more to support with educating children?
Yes, I definitely, I mean, the answer is yes for both, because you can never do enough. It's not that, we have to go to high school and then we're done. This needs to continue. I have to say about the UAE, specifically Dubai, where I reside, is that I'm really proud of it. Because it's such a small, in terms of population. And if you have to remember, mostly an expat community. But when I see initiations that I've seen, which was the Sheikh Mohammed initiation for a free education for 14,000 students across schools and creating the program for them, that's phenomenal in percentile. compared to them. So I'm just talking about country percentiles, right? That we have this, the whole aspect of Dubai Cares and what they do. So we are doing as a city or as a country, I think we are in the right direction, and people like me are led and inspired by that. But I feel the communities are not doing more. I think the expatriates are not doing more. We got to remember, if in the business world, Dubai is so incredibly positioned, we can reach Asia, we can reach Europe, we can reach the subcontinents within few hours. So can we in the reach for humanitarian work and charity. Thus, the setup of humanitarian city. We are very centralized. So if we as individuals in the UAE that have made Dubai a home, just literally stop and think that we can do something, and it could be just our own countries that we come from, possibly, or our countries of origin, the ones affected are from our region. If you look at from UNHCR's from MENA, if you look at Indian subcontinents, if you look at, so we can all do something. I wish for us to be able to raise more awareness, because people take a lot of comfort when we don't need to do it here. You don't need to do it anywhere. You just need to do where you can reach. So this I needed to happen. Globally, I would say, oh my God, 1,000%. It's as important and more than many other things that are happening in the world. And if you look at the world population right now, there's about today, I think about 60 or 65 million children that have zero access to education, and that's elementary school. That's just to learn to read and to write. I'm not even going to higher school. So and these numbers are multiplying. The world can do it. And but that has to come by government bodies. That has to come from the decision makers and from the real high net worth individuals. And I wish for them to have the change. On a lighter note, which I'm very happy about, is that the world thinks is not involved is changing. So I'm seeing a lot of, even with myself, commitment from people in the fashion industry and celebrities. They're all finding the concept of being compassionate, fashionable. And that's what I told you when I spoke to you a while back, is that compassion isn't fashion. It's becoming cool. The youth are trying to understand it. This is a really great change. I've seen it post-COVID. I have a lot of hope, and I have a lot of admiration for this change. So they don't need to change themselves. They don't need to become a different individual. They can be a part of it, and they're learning and enjoying. So yes, on this aspect, it's good news.
Zel, you are also a member of the Canadian Business Council Dubai. What does CBC Dubai mean to you?
Okay, so this is actually a very simple question, because the thing about Canada, or the thing about Canadians or Canadian identities, is just really, really authentic. It's just really simple, and it's culturally we're all, I think, conditioned to help and support. And the CBC actually stands all of that and more. I find it very united. I find their extending to help is just you could be anybody. It could be someone like me. It could be someone in the high net worth business leader, or it could be anyone. It's a sense of uniting them, supporting them, being a part of it. Initially, I found a team, just Diane, Sangeeta, people that are just, they're the backbones, and they're just so forthcoming. And you feel you're a part of something that feels like home. And they're always about motivating, but also bringing forward Canadians doing anything that they need to be heard or seen, and to help them. So I think it's great. I see it growing. It also personifies everything that we are. It's so multicultural. It's about being in different places in different countries, yet feeling like we're at home. I would feel like this in Vancouver or Toronto when I meet these people. So it's just great. Yeah.
Zel, what's next for you? Are there any projects or initiatives you're looking forward to in 2023 and beyond?
What's next for me? Okay, I have a list of stuff actually, because what am I going to do next? Because for me, I never quite feel I have done enough. And this is the great thing about the kind of work that I do. And I'll tell you why, Ameera, is that I read a quote somewhere, and it signifies exactly what I feel. The world of charity or humanitarian work is basically got a lot of opportunity and very little competition. So I'm in a place where I can keep growing. On immediate note, it's definitely the school that is in India, and I want to grow it. And I've just launched. Timing is great actually, because I can share. You're one of the first people I can share this with. I have changed my association with, I had a school of hope what I was going to have it, to schools of hope. And that's because I feel now that I can, in time from this project, that I can have a further reach and I can stop it from being a Zel project. I can almost, if you call it in the world of business, sell this kind of profile to others to do it and extend myself completely to serve that. And I've already started that within India, so I can create schools of hope via other individuals, like-minded individuals, and I'm on that. I am also aiming higher, and the UNHCR initiative is going to keep growing. They're about the 70-70 challenge, 70 students, etc. I wish to be a part of 70, 140, 280, as much as I can do advocacy for. And then there's something really, really nice that I just mentioned to you, that the world is opening up to people from different industries wanting to be a part of it. And there's a global initiation that I'm a part of called the Universal Mission, and it's an identity and a body that is being it's been created to create something like, if you have a global fashion association or a tech, and this is going to be a humanitarian level. And I'm really, really I'm honored, and I'm humbled to be part of the founding, or they invited me to be a founding. So I'm part of education. The other lady in Europe is part of welfare for children, and the fellow Canadian in Ottawa is to do with all kinds of needs for children and education. And the person who founded is another brilliant lady, and she's from South America. So you can just imagine all of this coming together. They're going to support my projects and vice versa, and they're going to learn from each other. And this is what I want, the branch effect. Keep getting people within this world around us and doing their thing, and I'm being part of the bigger picture than the me part. I'm not the me. I don't want to be Zel only. All of us doing it together.
Lastly, Zel, what advice would you give to others looking to do something similar?
Okay, so I would say advice would be no advice, because there is no right or wrong. The fact that you have already started thinking about it, the fact that you, Ameera, are thinking about it, we're having the discussion, you're already making a difference. So stick to that, what makes you want to do it, and that's what's going to really, really drive you. Like I said, there's a lot of opportunity. There's not much competition. I would say never worry about numbers, because this is one area of work that I learned. Because when I would take a commitment, I used to be so afraid of potentially not delivering. But again, this is not that. This is a world where if you can help one person, you've already made a difference. And really start with your closest reach. Who can you reach closest to you? That's really, really important. And I would say stick with that. The other part is that, compassion starts from your heart. It's about love. Love goes nowhere unless you share it, unless you enaction it. And by action is serving. So just follow that. You love in your heart, you have compassion, you want to action it, you got to serve. And by serving, you can do it as much as we do little things in Ramadan, or we do the labor initiation in Dubai, where it's children in India, or if you're on a holiday, you do something. You become part of a big picture already. It's just that we need validation to do it. I would say advocacy is very, very important. Speaking about it, it could be at a dinner table, it could be with your children, it could be with people of influence. You plant a seed. You really do plant a seed. So advocacy is really important. The passion to being driven when you don't even feel motivated, because you're not losing anything. By giving, you are not losing anything. You're only receiving. So if you remove the fear, what is there? What are you worried about? You just keep going and doing it.
Thank you so much, Zel. It was a pleasure and extremely inspiring having you on the Powerful Podcast series.
Thank you, Ameera. It's an absolute pleasure. And thank you for helping spreading the word. I would say that thanks to you and CBC for bringing this together and making it happen. And we're part of the change today.